We do not have any guests, but does anyone need a recap of the roles? So we will need the word of the day from our grammarian Kyle.
Okay, if there was not a pre-assigned word of the day,
Yes.
the
Oblation.
word of the day is
So top right.
oblation. So now I have to look up what the word oblation means. Give me just a second. Oblation is the act of making a religious offering. The act of offering the Eucharistic elements to God, something offered in worship or devotion, a holy gift offered usually at an altar or shrine. That is the word oblation.
Thank you, Tom, for the word of the day. Tom will be our grammarian, taking track of all of our misused grammar. And Heather's timer, so yeah, we have all the roles, so it's great. We have 2 speeches tonight. Lawrence is giving a speech, My Life as a Mentor, and I'll be giving my second speech of a speech I gave last week. So this is my improved version of what I did last week with critique from others. Okay, so we've covered the agenda. I now have the privilege to ask Lawrence to come up to the lectern and give his speech, My Life as a Mentor.
I have something really important to tell you. It's not a very well-known secret, but the fact of the matter is, you will never make it alone. Not you, not you, not you. You will never make it alone. If you look at your life, how did you get here? 2 people had to be involved for you to get here. How many hundreds, maybe thousands of people influenced you in such a way that you could be here the way you are now? My fellow Toastmasters, you have to have people around you or you will never succeed. One of the best things that you can do in your life is to find a mentor. Now, people think about a mentor. They may think, somebody who's all wise, who knows everything there is to know about everything. Well, that could be a mentor. But a mentor could also be that friend who decides to just walk along together with you for a short time in your life, where you work together for any particular purpose, or just for life itself. But mentors are really important. The problem is, mentors are also very difficult to find. Because somehow, at least in American culture, we've come to the conclusion that we can do it. I can do it myself. I can get there. I can be. I can do. I can whatever. But the problem is, we can't. So, we need to find mentors. And this is one of the things that I really love about the new Toastmasters Pathways, is that they have a whole section on mentoring that I didn't really find in the legacy program. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Now, mentors can be many things. If you're in a new business, or even you're in an old business but in a new place, well, somebody will probably come along and say, hey, these are the ropes. This is how you do it. This is where it goes. This is where we do this. This is where we do. That is a type of mentor. But there are also mentors in life. The guy who helps you to get through a tough situation. You know, we all look for mentors in business. If we want to start a new business, it would be great to have a mentor. And I myself have had many mentors. Many mentors. It was really difficult for me to decide on who it was I was going to talk about in this speech who mentored me. When I started to really think about who is it that influenced my life in various different sections, I can remember teachers that really influenced me in an amazing way. Now, some teachers are also mentors. Some teachers are just passing on information. And the teachers that many people really love are the teachers that are also mentors. They're not there just to feed you information, but they want to help you to understand that information. Understand how to use that information for the better of your life. I had teachers like that. I had heads of business that really felt compelled to help the people come up in their business. And in fact, one of them, Paul Warner, that I worked with when I first came down to Alabama, I worked in a shipyard and then I worked on the boats that that company owned. But one of the things that he really impressed me was he was always mentoring somebody. And when I talked to him one time, and he mentioned, well, the reason that he mentors someone all the time is because he wants somebody to be able to replace him. This is like crazy. Why would he want to be replaced? He's like the head of the business. Why would he want to be replaced? Well, the fact of the matter is, you're here, but that may not be where you want to be for the rest of your life. If you're stuck in a position and you have no one to take over that position, then you're never going to be able to move ahead in your life. So, in my opinion, I really feel that mentors are so important to our life that not only are they important for us to grow and to prosper in our life, but they are important to everyone that we relate to, because my fellow Toastmasters, you too can be mentoring people and helping them to move forward in their life. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thanks, Lawrence, for that speech on mentoring. And we all need to find people that we can mentor in the club, and also, possibly outside of life in other areas, and find mentors ourselves. It's very valuable. A lot of successful people will attribute their success to a mentor. Now it is time for my speech, and this is the second time I'm giving this speech as part of Pathways, and I'm going to try to implement some of the feedback that Maurice gave me last time. My speech is called Getting Out of Debt, and it's from Pathways Innovative Planning. Our society is plagued with a heavy burden that affects over 80% of the population. It affects people's marriages, their children's health and happiness, even their own health. I'm not talking about some of the common health disorders that our country faces, such as cancer and diabetes. These are awful, but it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a financial problem: consumer debt. Consumer debt is so common that it's almost seen as a rite of passage to becoming an adult in America. Let's face it, having debt is just, being American. But I believe debt causes many problems in people's lives. And if you eliminate it from your life, it would increase the overall well-being that you have. It's not an easy task, though. I know a lot of people struggle with this. Currently, I just wrapped up the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace class at my church. And I'm going to share with you what I've learned in that class to help you rid your life of debt. The first part of overcoming something and correcting something is admitting you have a problem, like anything else. So you have to come to terms with the fact that you have a problem with debt and that you want to tackle it and get rid of it. And once you've done that, you can begin the 7 baby steps. And the first step is to save up a $1,000 emergency fund. This is important because when something happens, such as you get a flat tire and you need to buy a new tire for your car, you don't have to whip out the credit card and charge more debt. Also, the emergency fund is fairly easy to achieve, so you get goal 1 done, gives you a little boost of confidence to move on to the next step. Step 2 is using the debt snowball to pay down all consumer debt except for your home mortgage. The debt snowball concept is taking your lowest debt item, paying that off, moving to the next one, and the next one, eventually paying off all of your consumer debt. Being a numbers guy and an engineer, I know it doesn't make mathematical sense to use the debt snowball. It would make more sense to take the highest interest rate loan and pay that off first. But what the debt snowball does is it enables the human psyche to gain momentum, right? So you pay off the smallest amount, enables you to go quicker. And so you get a win, and then you go to the next one, you get another win, and eventually it's all paid off. So I believe the debt snowball is one of the best methods for tackling debt. So in just step 2, you've already paid down all of your consumer debt. So you might be asking yourself, why do we need the other 5 steps? Well, these steps are to tell you what to do with your money that you're now saving, and also to keep you out of debt. Step 3 is the ultimate emergency fund. This is 3 to 6 months of your expenses saved. So you take what you spend in a month and multiply that by 3 to 6, and that's the amount you need in a liquid savings account that you have access to. And imagine the weight kind of being lifted off your shoulders with the thought of maybe losing your job or some major medical issue happening, you have a large bill. Now you have the funds available to cover those things when that happens. It's a really great thing to know that you can depend on. Step 4 is investing 15% of your household income into a Roth IRA or your company's 401k. Now you're starting to build wealth for yourself and your future, and also your family's future. You're starting to work on that legacy. This is nothing fancy. You don't need an MBA or be an investment banker to invest like this. Just simple, diligent saving year over year, and with the average salary of around $50,000 over a 30-year period, 15% invested, you can become a multimillionaire. Once you've taken care of your future, now it's time to start thinking about your children's future. And step 5 is to save money for your child's tuition in a tax advantage plan such as a 529. So doing this will enable your child to go to college and not have to worry about the burden of student loan debt. And they can graduate with a clean slate and worry about the problems that they're meant to tackle in the world, and not the burden of debt that they have to face once they get out. Now, with your retirement and your children's college fund taken care of, you only have one item left that's on your balance sheet in the form of debt, and that's your home mortgage. So now you want to start paying that off early. And with all the extra money you have now, because you don't have credit card debt, car payments, you worked up enough to where you're saving comfortably, you can knock out your home mortgage loan quickly, and now you've freed up a lot more money. Usually that home mortgage loan is about 25% of people's income. So with just a couple months of that, not paying that, you can take that nice vacation that you've always wanted to take. And also another great thing with not having a home loan or rent is your retirement will go a lot further when you reach that age. Once the house is paid off, you're officially debt-free. And I'm sure that's a great feeling. I'm not quite there yet, but I hope to achieve that someday soon. Step 7 is to give generously, continue to build wealth, to leave a legacy behind, and enjoy the money that you have coming in. Now that you don't have to worry about your own financial well-being, you can worry about other people and help other people. Reaching this step and being able to help others is what living a full life is all about. Thank you. Okay. Now we will move on to the evaluation. Oh, sorry. Do you have the tabletop question? I don't know if we got one. Oh, okay. Does anybody have?
Is it you?
I can always be something.
All right, Lawrence, you want to tackle that one?
Right.
Lawrence will be our improv too. Our top
Today, as you might have noticed in those of you who actually spent the time to look at the itinerary from when you signed up for coming here, you might have noticed that the theme for this evening is to never forget. And that is part of the reason why we picked ovulation. Now, one of the things that ovulation, one of the reasons I picked that, there's a second meaning to that is more a level of respect and not just a religious connotation, which is what a part of the meaning that he picked out. I think maybe I'm going to have to figure out maybe to write out a meaning on the itinerary or something when I load those up. Anyways, never forget. Today is when we in America celebrate Veterans Day, which was actually yesterday. For those of you that don't know, Veterans Day is actually Remembrance Day originally, and it was the day that the treaty was signed to end World War I, where hundreds of thousands of people died in what was the worst war, theoretically the worst war in history, and the war to end all wars. Obviously, that didn't work. But we want to remember. And one of the things that they use to remember is a poppy. Poppies apparently grew very profusely on one of the major burial grounds that was where soldiers were laid during the First World War. Now, what I'd like to ask is, even though you may have never had to think about it, I'd like to ask someone to give their thoughts on why a poppy or any other flower might be of value as a remembrance of those who have given their lives to support their beliefs in their country. Would anyone like to tackle that? I know it's a difficult topic, but just, I know, I could see it. Okay, let's try something else. All right? Okay, we want to remember. We're remembering that people died in wartime. Now, if you had a magic wand and you could do anything in the world with that magic wand and it magically transform anything, how would you end the struggles that eventually become war? Cody.
So I'm currently listening to an audiobook called The Rational Optimist. And the main theory behind it is commerce and trade is what allows us to go forward. It allows us to continue as humans and operate in peaceful times. So in the book, he talks about all the different empires that we had, and generally they start because of some kind of trade between different societies, and they become empires because the governments form, somebody becomes in power, and generally the emperor, the ruler, ends up screwing it up because he creates too many bureaucratic things and tries to pad his own pockets, and the laws that he creates kills trade. So if I had a magic wand to do anything with to avoid battle and war, I would say I would use the wand to continue this global trade that we now have. And as you can see, China and India are now becoming more powerful nations because they've opened their borders up and they begin to interact with the rest of the world. Mainly contributed to technology with the internet, them both being, China's starting to catch on to that. They're mainly manufacturing, but they were manufacturing, exporting to the US. We were benefiting from their goods, enabling us to focus on other things and spend more money on different things. And now China is also growing from that, and India as well as technology. So the magic wand would enable trade to continue and not close borders and create a bunch of tariffs. That's what I would do.
Never forget. In order for us to never forget, we have to know it in the first place. And so, one of the most valuable methods that is used in helping people to be less inclined to remember is to help them to never learn it in the first place. So, what I'd like to ask the next speaker is to give just a little bit of your understanding of the importance of peaceful nations to a world in general. And however you want to have that peace, through religion, through whatever. How do you think, how important do you think it is to be educated to keep a peaceful world? Let's go with that. Maurice?
Yeah.
How important is education in keeping peace in the world?
Mr. Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, how important is it to keep peace in the world? First off, people typically define peace as absence of conflict. I would say to that, it is a lot more in depth than absence of conflict. Because you may have a dictator and no one may be rebelling, so there's no conflict, and at least to the dictator, it's peace. But I would say to that is not peace. First, you have to find the guiding principles to true peace through whatever method, as Lawrence suggested. Once everyone agrees to what the underlying principles are to peace, then more people can get on board, and then peace will flourish more. Mr. Atomic Master.
Can I try the same question?
Yes. Tom, would you like to try the same question?
Mr. Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters. The importance of peace and the proper, in my opinion, proper solution to finding peace is to remember, not to never forgetting is remembering, but you learn from the past. True peace is not no conflict. Conflict is necessary for growth. True peace is resolving those conflicts without resorting to violence. That would be the key. So never forgetting is very important. We must remember the past. We must remember where we came from, what we came through, in order to avoid doing that again. Because if we start to erase the past, then eventually we're going to repeat it. And that is going to lead to much, much bigger problems than what we have now. Mr. Table Topics Master.
In my opinion, one of the greatest causes of violence is fear. And Churchill, I believe, once said that the only thing that you have to fear is fear itself. And so that we do not have to deal with fear, I'd like to have my next topic be, how can we avoid fear? I know we're getting heavy topics here tonight. Anybody want to try that? Flip of a coin? All right, okay, next opportunity. Here's another opportunity. 5 meanings of never forget you'll never realize existed. Never forget what a terrible thing they did. Never forget to get revenge. Never forget they hate us. And never forget we are always in danger. These are the 5 meanings of never forget that we should forget. So, what do you think would be the best thing for you to never forget?
Well, think about memories, love, think about the bonds that you have. How do we actually get together? Actually once, the other day, I deleted a friend's phone number, a contact, someone I liked the most. Because whenever we ever talk on the phone, we always argue about ridiculous things. So the other day, I was watching a show, and this reminded me, like, there is a reason why we are friends. And I made a mistake. Well, after that, I was actually crying because I did something that I shouldn't have done. Because I look up to him. He's funny. He's annoying, of course, because that's like a brother. And I just think that people should just remember those memories. Because if they do, those are the reason why we are here. And we've been together a lot, and he means a lot to me. He's like more of a brother. I know it might sound like it's like a boyfriend, but it's not. But it just feels that way. Because we have went through a lot together. It's an amazing thing to have. Like, if he was a girl, trust me, I would be dating her. Trust me, I would love her. So, that being said, that you should never forget those people that's in the past that made me feel really good about yourself. Thank you.
One really, really important thing that we should never forget. Never forget that you should have some idea what you want to do before you get up to be a table topics master, and make it light and enjoyable. Mr. Topic Master.
I know that's not easy, Lawrence, coming up with topics off the top of your head. So that was a true table topics master, impromptu table topics themselves. Now we will move on to our evaluation portion of the meeting, and that's going to be led by our general evaluator, Gretchen.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will have our first evaluator, Justin, come up for the evaluation of Lawrence's speech.
Thank you.
I love the lecture.
Fellow Toastmasters, I have the honor of reviewing Lawrence's speech regarding my life as a mentor. So I like that topic a lot. I've had a few really good mentors in my career, and those have been a huge help, and people who volunteer time and put energy into that are making a big sacrifice, but it's an investment. It's a very important thing for people to do. So it's a topic that speaks closely to me, and it has been a huge help for me personally. I did like how you said that you can't make it alone, which is absolutely true, and that all of us are influenced by thousands of people, and that you have to have others around you to succeed. You cannot do that alone. Those are all really good points. During your speech, I like the movements that you make. You leave the lectern, and there's not a lot of over movement. I can tell that you're very deliberate about how you move and your use of gestures, and you're moving around in front of the lectern. You've got great use of vocal variety. And getting to some of the points on the paperwork itself here, things you excelled at. You had a very clear speech. Your use of vocal variety is great. Your use of pause and your hand gestures are also very good. I can tell that you're very deliberate about when you make pauses and when you make gestures. I don't see overuse on either of those. One thing that I noticed that is a suggestion is you may want to make more direct eye contact with members of the audience. I see you looking around the room, but I don't see you as often making direct eye contact with people in the audience. And of course that can go both ways. You don't want to stare into someone's eyes and make it awkward, but I think a little more direct eye contact would benefit the speech. I also think that, and I'm looking for suggestions here. I have to work to make some suggestions, but I think building in more developed personal stories into your speech, into that speech would also help, especially being a mentor topic, because that's one that you could really relate an anecdote about something with your personal life. And you did make examples of mentoring, for example, but I think that's an area where the speech could have been developed a bit more. So on to the ratings here. The clarity, I think, was great. I gave that a 4. And again, I'm using the clarified scale from Lawrence, where 5 is really, really good. Vocal variety, I'd say, is a 4. Use of eye contact, I gave it a 3, with just that one caveat of more direct eye contact with people. Gestures, use of gestures, I gave a 4. Audience awareness, I gave a 4. Comfort level, I gave a 4. Lawrence is always very comfortable and poised and confident behind the lectern. For the interest, engagement of the audience, I gave that a 4. And then shares personal experience as a protege, I gave a 3 for just the one point I mentioned earlier. So great speech, as always, Lawrence. Really, really appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. And now we will have Maurice evaluate Cody's speech on getting out of debt.
Fellow Toastmasters, I give the evaluation on Cody's speech, getting out of debt. And this is the second speech that builds on the first speech, if the speaker so chooses. General comments, you excelled at clear spoken language and controlled gestures.
You may want to work on tone a little bit more. To challenge yourself, well, just take those points into consideration. Clarity, I gave a 5 because it was clear spoken language. Vocal variety, I gave a 3 for constant tone, even though, well, this speech may not have necessarily called for a lot of vocal variety, even though Dave Ramsey may beg to differ with me, because I know he gets crazy about it. But otherwise, it didn't really call for too much vocal variety. Eye contact 4, gestures 4, audience awareness 4, comfort level 4, interest 5. I know the audience is interested in getting out of debt. Or not getting into debt in the first place. Applied feedback, I gave a 4. Just as a note, this was an improvement over the first speech. Madam Evaluator. General.
Alright. And now, Heather, could you give us the timer's report?
Sure. For the speeches, Lawrence's speech was 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Cody's speech was 6 minutes and 15 seconds. The table topics, Cody had 1 minute and 47 seconds. Maurice, 1 minute and 18 seconds. Tom, 50 seconds. Donovan, 2 minutes and 9 seconds. And then for the evaluations, Justin had 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And Maurice had 1 minute and 33 seconds.
Thank you, Heather. Tom, could you give us the grammarian's report and all-counter report if you were recording that?
I apologize, I did not keep an all-counter
Okay.
report because I thought of it about halfway through the meeting. I thought maybe I should be doing this, but so I didn't do it at all. As a grammarian, I listened for proper use of the English language. I found no fault with anybody this evening, other than a few crutch words that popped up, but for the most part, all of it was very well done. It was Roosevelt quote, not Churchill, that said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself."
Thank you.
And Lawrence was the only one that attempted to use the word of the day, which was oblation.
Oblation. Oblation.
We'll let it go at that. As opposed to the other word that he used, which is a biological function. Okay. I missed that. Okay.
Actually, I didn't think he was even saying that, but
My wife's a doctor, forgive me.
Yeah, well, you used a B instead of a V.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
okay.
No, I did use a B, it just sounded like. Now I know what you're using the word.
I don't know why we're
Now I
afraid to
know
say
what
the
it's oblation.
Okay, for my general evaluation of the meeting, we started, I believe, a couple minutes late. We were having a conversation around the table about TED Talks, and that is still somewhat pertinent to us. So, and I think that it was a good meeting. Albeit we were shorthanded today and filled in spontaneously on certain roles. My one comment, and this has been done in the past, and I know we're really rushed every time we're setting up, but the American flag, when it is hung vertical, the stars are supposed to be on the left side. It's supposed to be on the upper left. So on Veterans Day, I couldn't help but mention it. So I'll try to help you with that next time, y'all. But anyway, just wanted to point that out. And I think it was a good meeting.
Thank everyone for the evaluations, for the general and the individuals. Great job. Justin, you have an educational overview?
I do not.
He declined.
I declined the last
He
minute.
declined, but it didn't get a.
I can just mention, I will mention just something from here. It's something that I read about recently, it's something that I've noticed sometimes in speech. And it's something that it's not, maybe not commonly discussed, but it was upspeak. So sometimes when we talk, we finish our sentences raising in tone, and it's a vocal style, and some people say it's not negative, but I've also read that if you're speaking professionally, that upspeak can lead that sentence to have some doubt in it. So one thing that I've tried to do professionally, especially meeting with clients and coworkers and such, is avoid that upspeak, because it sounds like you're second guessing what you're saying. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you, Justin. That's nice. Never heard that, so it's a nice tip. Okay, that was the educational overview. Now it's
I'd like to
time.
mention that,
Oh,
that
yes.
this is available. This is now available for this club. And so when new people come, or when you decide you want to go into a new program, a new path, we have the whole list here. It tells you what the different competencies that are in the program. And over here it tells you your 10 paths that currently exist, and we do have room in the back for future paths. And it tells you which competencies are most available in that particular path. And then it goes through each path individually and tells you what you're going to do on each level. And it also tells you what electives are available on that level. Like, for instance, in this one, in effective coaching, you have to have 2 elective projects. And so you can pick out any of those 2 there. And then in level 4, you have to have 1. And in level 5, you have to have 1. So it gives you an opportunity to look at all of what's available in those particular programs. And this is going to be with the rest of our club materials for new people and for older people who want to look at their next path.
It's a good idea, because new people have no idea what Pathways is, and this is something you can show them without having to pull a laptop out.
Yep.
Not everyone always has, so good idea, Lawrence. Thank you. We have an award today. Lawrence achieved his level 1 of motivational strategies, and he has her certificate here, signed by the international president and the CEO of Toastmasters. So let's congratulate Lawrence. So that's motivation for all of us to step our game up and start
Maurice will be getting his soon now too.
pathway stuff. Yeah, we're
Because he just did, or you will be getting yours soon, because
Yeah.
you just did your second last of
So I need
the.
to evaluate, then I have one more speech, I think.
Yep,
Got a question, Lawrence.
sir.
So if I do, you may have answered this question already. So if I evaluate a Pathways speech, that counts toward my evaluation part? Is that, or is it different?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, in level 1, one of the requirements is to evaluate a speech. And so if you have, it doesn't matter what speech it is.
Okay.
If you evaluate a speech, you've done it.
Okay. So I guess that's
And
2
then
notches.
you have your icebreaker, you have your you have an evaluated speech, and you have a revised evaluated speech, and then you have one other, I think there's 4th speech in there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's one more. It's like a research.
Yeah, research your topic. And an icebreaker, an evaluation and feedback, and then a researching and presenting. Those are the 4 speeches that you have to give in level 1 of every level. And then in level 2 of every one, you have to do mentoring. So yeah, that's going to be highly emphasized in the new program. I like that.
So since I evaluated yours, Lawrence, like a couple weeks ago, does that count, or do I need to evaluate?
Yes,
Okay.
it counts. Any speech that gets evaluated, you count as an evaluator.
Okay. If no one has anything else, we'll now adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
We are going to meet next week,
With-
Thanksgiving week.
I'm I'm able to.
Yeah, I'm able to
I'm
make
not
it.
off till then.
I think we talked about that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, didn't we? Because we were talking about the possibility that, didn't we decide that because we're gonna meet on Monday and Thanksgiving is until Thursday, that there was really no